Here.
Barbara? Here. Carol Zabrowski.
Yep.
I'm here. Ann?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes, here.
Carol Morissette?
Here.
Joyce? Don?
Yep.
No Julie. Lisa?
Here.
Okay, done.
What is going on?
Oh, where's your agenda? Minutes. Doing minutes.
Okay, minutes from the board meetings in
Just the first one. What is it?
January.
Everybody read the January one?
Yep.
Need a motion?
Need a motion to accept?
I'll second it.
Who's making the motion?
Well, you just said second.
I second it.
You're second, so you're making the motion.
Okay.
And with the knee.
Thank you.
You lead it? You better not, I ain't got my right.
Any discussion?
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
January 19th, somebody has to. Someone have the January? I give her over January.
Oh, you got it.
Okay, so who was not at the January one?
I think you two were not, right?
Here.
We weren't.
Was not at the January.
Yeah.
Bob wasn't here, Janet wasn't here, Joyce wasn't here. I wasn't
So Barbara, so one,
I wasn't.
I was here.
I was here.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.
So Don wasn't here, so we can't
Right.
accept them.
Say again, second.
Yeah, so he can check. So 4 in
That was
favor
virtual?
and everybody else
Was
abstains.
it virtual? Was it on the computer?
Got it.
Got it. That was January.
Yeah, because I'm not set up for that.
Okay.
I was here, I was in here.
And then February
Yeah.
Everybody read the February?
16th. Any questions?
Need a motion?
I need a motion to accept it?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Okay, that motion made and seconded, and we have, anybody vote on it?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and
Because I wasn't
except
here.
Barbara and Carol and Joyce.
I wasn't here.
February.
I wasn't here.
Got it.
That's right.
Okay. Moving on.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
We already did it.
Nope.
You're over here.
Okay. The financials.
Okay, for the month of February, we are 8 months into the fiscal year, which means we have 1/3 of the year left, 4 months left. So basically, on the far right of the page, where it says percent remaining, we should have typically at least 33% of the budget left, okay? If we have more budget left, that's good. It means we won't run out for that particular item. It also is an opportunity to understand maybe why are we spending less, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like for instance, under transportation, the category that pays for our shuttle driver wages and half of the activity coordinators' wages, that's running at about 57% remaining. So it's almost, not quite double what we need for the next 4 months, but as I've been saying the past few months, that since COVID has slowly been receding and, we were open a little bit, it took time to ramp up, then we shut down again for 2 months, January, February, now we're reopened. Our demand for shuttle rides hasn't quite picked up. Some people are gone now and who were regular customers. Other people are finding out about the service, and we're starting to see some new names, but our shuttle drivers are largely not as busy as they used to be, so we're paying less wages. Luckily, they're flexible and not counting necessarily on their paycheck for making ends meet. Okay. So that's the litmus test, is to look at the far right column and see, are there any areas where we are going to basically run out of money that we need. From the town accounts in the second group of rows in the page, those aren't big budget items, and we rarely run into trouble there. So like for, miles, meals, meetings, and dues, we have 19% or 20% left. There's not much else coming up. We don't do mileage. We don't do meals while we're, out at some sort of conference event. Meeting and dues come out of here. And we spread, we had $400 there to start the fiscal year. We have dues in excess of that. So we exhaust the 400, and then we go to other areas, such as under the formula grant at the bottom of the page, where we could take it out of, conference and training, things like that. So in terms of wages, as has been the case since the start of the fiscal year last July 1, we have left the clerk's position unfilled, so that money's untouched. Okay. As I said, for transport and the half of the activity coordinator wages, we have ample budget left. In February, the wages between drivers and half of the activity coordinator was $1,437. Okay. The senior lunch program would be all of the nutrition coordinator's wages for the month of February, $1,237. We have 41% remaining, so we're in good shape there, so we won't exceed that by June 30th. And for outreach, we're pretty much going to land that canoe properly. We have, in the far right, about 32% left. The income column there would be our Title III outreach wage reimbursement. That's the grant we get for the current fiscal year and the one after. It's a 2-year application process, and we were granted that. So that helps put money back towards wages. And right now, for instance, we're going through very heavy outreach time, and there's nothing, well, what's happening is people are waking up to maybe they're turning 65, so you get that that's a pretty normal stream throughout the year. But we have fuel assistance applications, deadline is April 30th. It's getting really late, but technically it makes sense for some people to still apply on April 29th or April 30th, as long as it gets up there, because the heating season will be over. But if you were tardy and they grant your application, then what they do, if done typically, is they then roll it as a credit to your electric account. Okay? So some people probably won't pay an electric bill for a very long time. Now, there are people who we're helping get fuel assistance applications in last week, this week. I don't know the turnaround time to make those benefits operative, but with the price of heating oil being what it is, you're probably not going to get many fills off of, maybe, I don't know what the average benefit is, but I've seen the benefits that some people have gotten around town, because I know them when they tell me what they get. And, some get, $1,000 or $1,300, some get $800. So, I think they require 100 gallons at a time. And so if it's at $4.50, I heard yesterday $5.35 a gallon, that could be one visit. You're going to get like 1.5 visits on your benefit. So you got to have room for it.
500. I got 100 gallons.
Okay.
That went up $1 a gallon.
So today being the 16th, there was a very small program that the Lions Club runs every year for the 6 weeks from Groundhog Day. It's called the Groundhog Fuel Fund. And it runs for the 6 weeks. And there's an application, and you may be eligible for 50 gallons. Now that 50 gallons is going to cost the Lions Club a lot more than it has in past years. Yeah. So
$5 a gallon.
the other deadline that's expiring, it's coming much more quickly, is the town's property tax abatement applications. Those are April 1. And we are working with the assessor's clerk. Early last week, got the list from Michelle Simpson of seniors who were mailed applications but have yet to return them. And they're elderly or they're veterans. And I have been like a human robocaller. And yesterday we had 3 people in and we got them done. And we're engaging Jeff Rule, the Veteran Service agent. I gave him the names, I gave him contact information, and I've encouraged him to speak to Michelle Simpson because some of the veterans exemptions are varied, and he's new to it, and I can't explain it well. Diane Morgan can explain it about the same, so it'd be best if Michelle could inform him and let him have that outreach, because these will be veterans that he'll have contact with during the rest of his term. So outreach has been, to say the least, busy. So it's nice to have the supplementation through the West Mass Elder Cares Administration of the Federal Title III grant funds. So I'll be happy if by June the 30th, we just exhaust that budget, okay? Down to the town accounts, we have ample budget left for office supplies out of $700. We still have $500 from basically 38. Postage, we haven't touched that yet because we get to touch down to formula. We either go out of postage or we can touch it from newsletter printing. It's fungible there, okay? So we have some flexibility. Vehicles, we brought in $131 of fares from seniors, and we had an oil change servicing for almost $40, but we're in good shape there. We have more money now than we started with. We had $1,100, we now have $1,533, okay? Repair of office equipment, we haven't touched that at all. As I said, miles, meals, meetings, and dues, we have $77 there. The $20 outlay was our Granby COA website domain registration through the Mass Council on Aging. It's $20 a year. It's affordable. Printing, we've only touched a little there, so out of $700, we have basically $689 left. Okay, in the donation accounts, building fund is very dormant. Nothing's come out of it, nothing's gone into it. Senior fuel fund, nothing's come out or in for the month of February. So we started with 4,900, and we have more than that on the far right. Okay. Non-senior fuel fund is a smaller account. When people make donations, they typically want it to go to seniors fuel fund. If people say we're most needed, I make a decision to put some in there because there are people under 65 who may have a pinch. And if they meet the requirements, which is they have to be at a quarter tank or less, okay? Preferably not needing a...
If they really need it, even if they're under the age.
Well, we work with a certain oil vendor in town, and he has given me indication there been several times he goes out and he cannot dispense what he needs to dispense.
Right.
Okay, so it has to be in need, okay?
Yeah.
And it has to be someone maybe who has not been able to qualify for fuel assistance, okay? So, general gift fund, we took in 25, we expended 850. That is $160 for 2 yoga class stipends. I had Granby Historical Association gave a speech here for one of our socials, Terry Johnson. Didn't ask for anything. I know they're trying to paint the building, the old building. I made a $75 honorarium payment to her. She did a lot of prep. It was a great event. People stayed. It's an hour event. People stayed for 2 hours just talking about town history. It was really nice. I had to pay an annual license renewal for the right to listen to music. It's called ASCAP, A-S-C-A-P. We do the same thing for motion pictures every year, and it's really sad because when we were closed, we weren't using these things, but It's historically been what's been set up here, and that was $391. So maybe we'll listen to a lot of music before the annual meeting.
Turn the radio on.
Okay. Newsletter fund, no activity in there, a little more money than we started because some donations have come in past months. Senior lunch fund, no activity there. We've only drawn down from our starting endowment on July 1, just a little bit by $30. Food pantry fund, $76 for freezer meats purchased at the Big Y. Typically we do that once a month because we don't get those types of donations from people. We get dry goods. And we took in $90 of donations to that account. Okay? And the Thanksgiving basket fund, we received a single large donation and one smaller donation. So if nothing else happens between now and next November, I think we're in fine shape for that. Okay? The formula grant, since the last meeting, I received, and Chris Martin and I signed the contract, and we certified it back to Boston. They received it. 3 weeks from receiving it, they received it on the 22nd of February. 3 weeks after receiving it, technically they wire the money into these accounts. So we'll keep an eye on it. I've always had these values in here, these allocations, because we're getting the same amount. We get about $15,000 a year. It's based on the, believe it or not, the 2010 census of the number of people 65 and older, and it's a per capita rate. So I think it's about $12.82, something like that. All that's going to go up the next formula grant cycle. We're going to use the 2020 census, and we're going to give you a bump per capita. So I use the same allocations as was the prior year. The majority goes towards funding our activity coordinators' wages. Then we take a little for conference and training, a little bit for the postage we use typically for newsletters. Newsletter printing is the second biggest category. That's where we typically will pay for the RICO lease, which is in there for $136. That's our monthly lease. That's over there in the expense column. And we take $1,000 for and put it towards office supplies. So we had $152 in February. That was 2 cases of copy paper and 1 case of the mailer labels that go on the envelopes for the newsletter. Okay? So we're in good shape. Okay?
Wait.
Oh, right. Okay, so in terms of service metrics, weekly bread delivery, largely dependent on what the store has when Dawn goes up to Stop and Shop in Belchertown. We had, yes, that's the store that we have an arrangement with. 26 seniors received home delivered bread. This doesn't count what we give away on the table, but home delivered, so it's 2 less than the month before. Food pantry for elders was 8 clients, 10 bags. That's an increase of 4 elders and 2 total bags. Food pantry for those under 65, 1 person, 2 bags, no change from January. Brown bag, 32, an increase of 5. What that means is we were, on our list yesterday was 36, so we've had people sign up for brown bag, largely because when the food pantry was here, now some of the people who signed up for our brown bag are actually not in Granby. They're like in Chicopee or South Hadley.
And
Can they do that?
Okay, or?
Yeah, as long as they're not signed up in another community. Why they want to come here, and not go to their closer one.
They love us.
Okay, so last month we had brown bag for 32 people, and we got 32 actually taken away. The reason being is we've been on the phone, we're tired of moving brown bags, moving them around, and then 3.5 weeks later they're still unclaimed. We break them down and we put them in the pantry, or we send the van over to Lorraine's kitchen where we send excess goods from the food bank. Now I'm going to look at the excess and say, what can I stock for the Thanksgiving basket?
So, question on the brown bag?
Yeah.
So if people from outside of Granby are coming in, how can you tell if they haven't signed up somewhere else?
The Food Bank of Western Mass knows that they're in the system.
Oh, okay.
So we can approve it, but they ultimately will say, no, they're already signed up in the community.
Oh, okay, okay.
Grocery delivery, 2 elders who don't have access, no change from the month before. Transportation, 9 trips for medical in February, that's an increase of 1, and 22 for all other purposes, also an increase of 1. So a total of 31. Okay, support services, Diane Morgan visited with 32 people in the community, largely elders, but not all of them. That's an increase of 11 from January. 5 people came for 5 pieces of medical equipment. We also been through the closet and called Triad, and they were happy to take multiples of walkers, canes, 1 wheelchair. He has too many commodes too, so he didn't take those. Gave him a rollator. So that was good because it gets tight in there, and it's nice to know he has broader distribution. Dave Fenton in the sheriff's office. So they took that. So that was an increase of 3 people and 3 pieces of equipment. It's a very active part of the center. We don't need to advertise it. People need to find it, and they can't often find it in their own community because others don't have.
Belchertown doesn't? And
Not anymore, and South Hadley doesn't. So we sign out a lot of equipment for those people as well. Wellness calls, 53, that's down almost 30 from the month before. And phone calls, 98, that's up 55. We have only so many hours, so if one area is requiring us to call, we called to start exercise up before March 1, so we were calling those rosters. We were calling for Valentine bag giveaway on the 14th. No sand deliveries in February.
Okay.
Wow.
Busy little Viva.
Busy month, huh?
Busy month, even though we were closed.
Yeah.
No, and curbside lunches were active, so it was nice. It wasn't totally without a cause.
Have the lunches improved
Since when?
since you got the new?
Oh, yeah, oh, definitely. I'd say it's largely been really positive. It's never,
Are they coming on time?
uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, they were.
Sometimes, occasionally they come a little too early. But that's okay, we can keep it dry. But mostly they're on time, they don't forget anything, it's the temperature, and it's a really good meal, I think. I think people are generally, and I eat a lot of them. I'd say the main attraction is good. Some of the veggies are a little uninteresting, but we need them on the plate. But they try, and they're putting together nice monthly menus.
Okay.
And they've since started offering breakfast to go. So the day you come for
Oh,
lunch,
really?
you pick up a home-delivered breakfast to reheat, intended for the next morning. And mix it up. So it's eggs.
What is the breakfast?
So usually you get a juice and a yogurt, and then maybe you get French toast bites, which are delicious. I tried one breakfast, it was good. 2 delicious sausage patties. Sometimes it's pancakes and a little maple syrup and some fruit.
Is that every day?
It's every day.
Wow.
Now, but
That's
for
a
us,
lot.
it's not, because we're 3 days a week with lunch.
Right.
So on the days that we call in lunch head count for the next day of lunches,
Right.
you can call in the breakfast. And somebody may not want to come for lunch, but they may like the idea of breakfast, so they can call it in, they just have to come and get it.
Okay.
So is there extra charge?
It is, it's $2.25 again.
So it's for the meal, $2.25, and the breakfast?
Yes, the
so you
breakfast
have
is a
to add it
separate
together.
meal. And it's,
Right.
I can see why, there's a lot of prep with it.
Yeah.
They do like
I would be glad to
an egg
go.
burrito, things like that.
$5 cheap.
I did see that, yeah.
Can't beat that.
Could go to McDonald's.
So they might do chicken sausage links one morning instead of pork. But yeah, it's a nice idea,
So
They got
how's
lots
it
of,
actually gone, the trial, the breakfast numbers?
not
Is it
great.
trying?
No, it's new, I don't, I think people have a hard time delaying their gratification, so you pick up your meal and you're gonna put it in the fridge for the next morning. I mean, you could eat it for dinner, and
Right.
if you were hungry and didn't have anything else, but, I think it's too soon to tell. I don't know if it'll be a home run for our COA, but it might work well in some other
Yeah.
more dense
Do people know about it ahead of
That's
time?
the thing I'm wondering.
Yes,
Yeah?
we have it on our website, we mail it in the newsletter. Now they get not only a lunch menu, but they get the breakfast menu.
Okay.
We've explained it.
I think the
That would be good.
newsletter maybe
That'll-
will connect more.
Yeah, so we'll see. There's no compunction. West Mass Elder Care is just making it available.
Okay,
Yeah,
why not?
okay.
Okay, with the old business,
We married.
Thanksgiving 2022.
Okay, the big decision was, I'm not gonna, I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
There you go.
Okay. So I think I was hearing that everyone was a little concerned that if we went to an individual meal for Thanksgiving that was already cooked, they wouldn't be getting as much food. Very true. But I don't know what goes on inside of each of these households with that bag.
Right.
You know, how much of it gets used, or who do they give it to? And that's fine if they give it to someone who's gonna cook it for them, and then they get to eat off it. That's fine. So we're gonna leave it alone. But with the caveat, I'm not assembling it yet, okay? I'm gonna talk to Marion Mason up at United Church of Christ, and I will put all the food, the dry goods in the van and get it up there, and I'm gonna let her coordinate all the volunteers, and I'll just give her our list of seniors who will be eligible for the bag, that we will, yeah, they used to do it.
Yeah.
So I've done it once, I don't need to do that ever again, okay?
I read your message.
So,
A lot of
the
work.
news,
Good practice.
yes, I can say I've done
Are you
that.
still gonna collect here?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
It's in the newsletter
She'll
now.
deliver it.
So, so I missed a few months because we were pondering, but that's okay. I can always take the excess that we get from Brown Bag that we would give to Lorraine's Kitchen, if it's
Right.
items
Oh,
from the
okay.
bag. So peas, carrots, green beans. But, so in the newsletter, I'll always put between now and October or to November, 2 items. And so, and we'll have ample budget, so we'll buy the frozen birds and breasts again, and we'll buy whatever dry goods we're short of at the last minute. But we always end up getting, so Granby to Go was wonderful. Judy DeLong made a trip up to the food bank like a week before, and she says, what are you shy on? It was embarrassment of riches what she came back with. So I got the stuffing that I needed, and then some. I still have some with good shelf life that I'll use next November. The Church in the Meadow, the Presbyterian congregation, they did a drive, they gave it to us. I think
Wow.
Dressels did a drive, they gave to us, and UCC did a drive. So, so it all comes together. So it'll be bags again, but I'll help,
Not us.
but not here, not here.
So we're not gonna bag here? No. Up there.
Supervisor.
And they're gonna take the delivery too?
No, we'll do that. But I will provision for so many more. Last year it was 25 school-age homes that had need. I will account for that in buying birds and breasts and in the collection of dry goods. So that will be theirs or Granby to those to coordinate.
Yeah, to them, and here you go, you just.
We'll provide drivers, for the senior woods, because our people know these households. So that's the decision. The compromise.
Good decision.
Yeah.
Good deal.
New business, the volunteer appreciation dinner.
Okay, so Carol, before you came in, we chatted a little about it. We are going to have a volunteer appreciation dinner this year. It was postponed for a couple of years due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's Thursday, May the 19th. It will be held here, and it will be from, say, 4:30 to 7. We'll have an hour of live music. If I can arrange it and the weather's good, the music and the hors d'oeuvres will be that first hour outside under tents, and then a sit-down dinner catered by Hamels.
Oh, okay. So they will
Save the
do-
date. We'll do invitations, you'll receive them. Okay.
So they'll do the work?
No, we'll do the work, we're just gonna drop it. We'll do, not you, but the staff will serve. You've
We
been
can all
serving,
help.
everybody
Yeah,
serves.
we help.
Yeah.
And we help. You'll need help.
Yeah, I know, yes, it was my crowning moment last November the 18th.
I have a question. Have you done anything about the music for the summer, the concert?
We don't do that, the Friends of Granby
Yeah,
Elder
they
Oh,
went
does
to
it.
that.
I wasn't
They
there.
do it.
Oh.
Yeah, they have, I know they have the concert scheduled for this.
I'm sure they
Yeah.
do, because we're
And they're the ones who told me we were having the Veterans Appreciation Dinner this year.
Really?
They told me how it works, and,
That's
Oh,
good.
that's nice.
Let
and
them
then they came in and said that they would even
take care of it.
pay for it. I said,
That's
what?
even,
Who?
the Friends of
Yeah.
Granby.
So I said, no. I said, we can do it. She says, no, we historically do it. I said, okay.
Go for it.
Don't argue.
Yeah, they gotta use their money.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we will do the desserts, we will do the beverages, and Christopher Heights, who's co-sponsoring, because there have been sponsors in the past. Some of the friends didn't remember that, but Healthcare New England was a sponsor one year. They did the appetizer hour.
We used to be on the Friends.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
that.
we,
So Christopher Heights will
Yeah.
be doing the hors d'oeuvres, preparing hors d'oeuvres, and
Nice.
Lorna Hall, maybe? I can't remember Lorna's last name, but she's lovely. She came and sponsored a bingo that we had unfortunately too few people at, but she came with an enormous tray of sharp cheddars and crackers and door prizes.
Nice.
So she would like to co-sponsor, and she will be on the guest list as well.
Very good.
I have a question on the Walk Massachusetts Challenge. So did you get any?
No, that's the problem. We have no feedback. So I don't think, without any feedback, we're not going to be coordinating this kickoff event at Dufresne on Sunday, May the 1st, with the Friends hosting it. And I asked Rachel, because we're preparing and soon to send to the publisher the April newsletter, and you know, what do we say about it? And I said, are we going to pull the plug on this and just try to get an informal walking group back over in Hadley at the Silvio Conti Refuge Trail? She's kept it in. She says, we can do it, we're just not going to make a big hoopla about it. And I said, well, I'm just not, it hasn't gone to publisher yet, so it may be pulled, and we may just put the effort behind really getting, we had names of people who wanted to walk last August and September, but then West Nile hit. And so we didn't want to put people out walking if the mosquitoes were out. So,
Is there any place closer they can walk than Hadley? Any place in town or something?
Dufresne is hard. The field is okay, but it's field, right? And it's got wet patches, and there's people with dogs, and not all the dogs are leashed.
Yeah, dog poop
That too.
everywhere.
And then forget
My
about,
grandkids,
forget
there's
about the
poop
woods.
everywhere.
People do-
Disgusting.
So not
Yeah,
Dufresne.
Dufresne.
They
I
don't
mean,
pick
do you
it
want to
up.
walk
No.
around
No.
the track? I mean, if we were to do the Mass
They are.
Challenge, we would have to
Not
come
all.
up with 3 to 5 walking venue suggestions. We could say to people, go to the Holyoke Mall, because that's what they're used to doing. I wouldn't want to
That's
go
what
to
we
the
do.
mall, but some people do. But we could say, if we got
But it's
permission,
nice, it's gonna be nice.
there's an outer track, someone indicated, around the new track at Holyoke College. It's a beautiful setting. Some people like walking in circles. Other people may want to,
Easy, right? It's a week home.
I don't know, there might be a nice trail between the lakes at the Mount Holyoke campus, if they would allow us, you know, as outsiders, basically. So, quite honestly, it's the middle of March. We will give it a little more thought. It's definitely got to be finalized before we go to the April publication, April newsletter publication. So I just,
Couldn't you get together with another council on aging group
oh, to do
to do the
so
walk?
many of them don't do it. I know that Long Meadow, East Long Meadow did it, only because I was on a director's call a few weeks ago, and one gal said, oh, we've done it, and our COA won $500 through a raffle. Now, the majority of the prizes come through people meeting duration and distance goals, okay? So you're not like, the gun goes off, you run, whoever
Yeah.
goes the furthest in the shortest amount of time. It's cumulative between May and end of October. So we have to see.
It goes out summer?
Goes till October,
Yeah.
end of October.
Oh,
Yeah, from May 1st till October.
So I don't know.
What do you do, keep track of your miles?
You do, and we help, you either have a computer at home where you do it, or you come to us and we help you log it in. It goes into a system.
But you have to register first.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of formal. It's
Mhm.
formal participation.
I mean, if you decide to do it and we still want to do it, can we just do it?
If we decide not to do it,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know if you have to be affiliated with a COA, and whether we could find a COA that you would walk through, but would you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know anyone
Little
else who wants to
casino.
do it? It's being dragged
start
along.
now.
Do you know anyone else who wants to
Like
do
me.
it? I mean, we can start polling people at the lunch table, you know?
Yeah.
over
I
the
think
next
people might have
2
just read it and then they just said, okay, that's interesting, maybe I'll.
I think
maybe I'll
that's
go
true
to
of
that
everything we
meeting.
ask them. And sometimes we mail out a separate questionnaire and we get very few back.
Yeah.
It's hard to know how to program for a population or a target audience if they're not comfortable giving feedback. So it can't be mind readers, we could try. So for instance, the Zumba Gold. We've been asking about Zumba Gold for several months. And we've heard nothing, except from 2 people. So I said, let's book it in April, and those 2 people will come, and I will do it, and Rachel will do it, and maybe Rachel's mother and her friend will do it, because they love Zumba, and we'll get a few people in. And when people see it's offered, we're going to do it 2 Wednesdays in April in a row, the 19th and the 26th, from, I think it's 4 to 5.
4 to 5 in the afternoon?
Yes, because technically, the goal was, if we got busy enough, we wanted to give Rachel the opportunity to work some more hours. She needs that, okay? But it hasn't happened. When it was supposed to start, she was sick. And then in February, we still weren't open, and there was hardly a need to ask for 2 days where she would be 9 to 5. So technically, the 4 to 5 will work because that's the goal.
Yeah.
By July 1, I would like to see it that I can tell her definitely there's 2 days in a week that she can work 9 to 5. Okay? So if I want
By
to
then,
keep
yeah.
good people, I need to make
Right.
sure I either pay them as well as I can, and then give them enough hours for that pay to help them in their work trajectory.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Let me find out about that. I mean, could we sign up for it with just 2 walkers? We would do that, sure. I think we certainly would. But I'd like to get more people involved, you know? So,
Is there a certain amount of miles you have to walk?
Well, you don't have to walk too. You can have somebody, a
Walk
grandkid
for
or
you.
whatever, walk for
For
you
you.
Yeah.
in your name. And they can
Yeah, I
finish
can
all the
walk
different
it all right.
challenges that they have.
I'm walking.
Are you kidding
Well,
me?
see, there you go. You'd have to go on to the.
we have paperwork, and Rachel can talk to you a
Yeah.
little bit
Okay.
about it.
Yeah. So it
There
doesn't
you
have
go,
to be you
Janet, get all
physically.
those kids to walk under your name, instead of
There you
around
go,
the
now
block.
I'll walk with
The little ones,
Yeah,
they do it.
yeah, we're too busy looking for bears to walk lately.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh,
I
don't
mean-
tell me.
Yeah,
I had one that ran right through my yard the other day, probably headed for your house.
she didn't hit my
I'm-
birthday.
I'm-
9 o'clock
on yours?
at night. And it
You guys live in the same street?
was- I live on Acrebrook, she lives on the street
Big
behind me.
monster, right, the big boy.
So to be continued.
Yes,
Okay.
Well, I didn't even have any feed
Anything
out
else?
there, and he just came and looked at my shepherd's book, and-
Maybe,
because he
This is
came
just
from
a
across the
thought.
street where the woods
You
are,
wanna try to
crossed
increase
over, crossed through the side of my house, looked at
people
my
coming in.
shepherd's hook,
If you go to Kathy
Just
Cutler's,
walk
That's up
they
here,
have
right?
Street index.
up there.
I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
it.
Big.
A lot of
I don't know if
people
it was
in there that
pregnant
said
or if it
they're
was just
I
a
know.
big bear.
So,
But
my
Annie's
thought
got
was to
had
send them some sort of a letter.
20,000
No.
bird feeders, I wonder.
I
if
have a
there's-
feeder, he never touches the feeder.
No, we've been doing
But I
that
take
without
my
reach.
suet in every
We made
night.
a promise.
No good?
Well, We made a promise when we reapplied for the Title III outreach grant. The proposal was predicated on the fact that we would use that street listing and we would take a focus on people who were 65 to 74 and then 75 and older, so those two groups. And then we knew a little bit more about people in those groups, whether they lived alone, whether they had a disability, whether they didn't have a disability but lived with another who was of equal age or older, or equal age and older, but a disability, someone who's a caregiver.
You did all that?
Yes.
Wow,
And then
That's all.
outreach has those lists, Diane Morgan has those lists, and I worked with her to have her integrate to her weekly work schedule, contacting some of those people, because they're not known to us here, okay? And anyone can come to us and say, I have a neighbor who doesn't know anything about the COA, and I think they need such and such. So we start by sending them a newsletter, and we might have outreach, give them a call. We have to be very careful. Some people are very allergic. It's like getting that first piece of mail from AARP in your mailbox at 50.
That's scary.
Yeah, it's true though. So the older you get, the worse they become with, not me, my neighbor maybe.
Yeah, I don't need it or whatever. And then all of a sudden something happens and they come in and they say, I never thought I needed an organization like the senior center, but can I borrow a walker? And then we say, yeah, and then they tell you some difficulty. We say, why don't you sit down with our outreach coordinator? And then they hear that there's lunch or there's a bingo going on. And people might graduate, or people have a change in circumstance. They become a widow or a widower, and they have time on their hands and they're lonely. And so we've seen that with a couple of men who become widowers. Okay.
Anything else?
I just
Make
have
a
one
motion
question.
to adjourn.
Oh, hold on, there's a
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
Were you ever thinking of having like a senior self-defense class?
No, haven't. Okay.
Would that be something that we could look into?
Sure, certainly.
Well, maybe
The
not for
police
just
did
seniors,
that
for
a
anybody.
while back. It wasn't necessarily a senior one, but it was,
For anyone, well, I know the police station was supposed to have it years ago, and I signed up and they never had it.
Okay.
yeah,
Well, it might have gotten interrupted.
I forgot.
COVID
Yeah, because I
and
went
all
through that with my mother who was 70 some odd at the time.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay.
So you're going to do it?
Yes.
Karate chop.
I just want to be able to defend myself. I'm always going places by myself. I live by myself. Every time I hear something, every light in the house goes on.
That's a good thing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
No, and
Or
my
maybe they
doors you
had
could probably push
suggestions.
open even if they're locked.
Yeah. Pepper spray or taser.
Yeah.
And where do you get that?
Well, it's not as easy as it used to be. Years ago, I had pepper spray. It was nothing. You could get it. Not now. Now they really want a lot of ID. You got to take your picture.
Really?
Yeah, it used to be easy. I had it because I walked down the back road. I was afraid of the bears.
Yes,
I had a pepper
yes.
spray.
Yes.
I went to go on a plane. I had to put it in the trash because I would have been in trouble. So, yeah.
Is that the same as mace?
I think it's less than mace.
It's a spray form.
Yeah.
It's
It's not, yeah, is that what it is? Yeah, I don't know, it's funny, but.
I take my foghorn when I go for a walk for the bears.
Okay, anything else?
Use your whistle, blow the whistle, no one.
I probably
You
couldn't
make the
blow it,
motion?
but I could sure set off that.
Okay, we need a second.
Foghorn.
Made the motion.
You make the motion? I can't.
Motion was made to adjourn, do we have a second?
Right here.
All those in favor?
Aye.